welcome to the live stream. This is the first live stream that I've done in a while, so I'm gonna get this posted to various Telegram groups. I've been busy with the move. The good news is my family has sold the house in Hattiesburg today, the house that you're looking at. We will be moving in a month, but the good news is the house has been sold. So we do have a buyer. So a lot less stress now. So I will be doing more live streams and more videos. So just hang on one second. Appreciate your patience. How you guys doing out there? And just hang on. Okay. All right, I want to talk to you today first about The Guardian, what they had wrote, and this is sick with the ISIS insurgents in Mozambique, the ISIS insurgents. They have taken many younger women under the age of 18 when they take over towns, and they have forced these women into sexual slavery. Many of them are not considered women. They're not fully developed females. They're girls, but they're being forced into sexual slavery under horrible, abhorrent conditions. So this is the evil of the Mozambique insurgents. And this is a sick situation. But The Guardian reported this. Props to The Guardian for reporting this, and we need to pay attention with what's going on in Mozambique. All right, so how you guys doing out there? Hope everybody is well. So yeah, that is the first thing with what's going on in Mozambique. Also, what is going on in Niger, and I did a video on this yesterday, but for people who may have missed the video, in a border area of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, the attackers went to a region. They came from Mali more than likely, and they went to a region in Niger called the Gaigoro region, and the Gaigoro village, I should say, the Gaigoro village, and they killed 19 innocent civilians, and they wounded another 2. And that is a sad, sick situation. So we need to pay attention what is going on in West Africa as well with Niger and with Mali and with Burkina Faso. So we need to pay attention to that situation as well. Now, news in South Africa, honestly, I do support the Johnson & Johnson vaccines being resumed in South Africa. Now, I'm saying this with a heavy heart because, yes, it is true. Blood clots can develop from that vaccine, but the chances of that happening are less than 1 in a million. But on the other hand, when it happened in the United States, a friend of mine's grandmother had more of a friend of a friend of mine's grandmother was one who experienced the blood clots. So if you've had blood clots in the past, I would advise you to talk to the doctor, or if you've had prior allergic reactions to vaccines in the past, then doctors advise you to not take the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, period. I have taken the Pfizer vaccine and it has been fine. I've not had any issues with the Pfizer vaccine. I've not had any problems, limited side effects, and I'm able to go about my daily life a lot more than I used to. I go to movie theaters now. The last movie I saw in a movie theater was the Disney movie Raya and the Last Dragon. I saved my money and watched the new Mortal Kombat on HBO, and saved my money and didn't pay the $8.50 that it costs to go watch the movie because I get HBO. I pay $7 a month for HBO Max. And so I just watched the new Mortal Kombat on HBO Max. Honestly, it was really good. I enjoyed the new Mortal Kombat movie. I liked the 1995 version better, but this one was really good, and it's definitely worth a watch. Had lots of action, had a pretty good storyline. Not at all like the 1995 version, and not at all like the video game, if you ask me. But it's still really good. I personally think it's definitely worth a watch. Just like I thought Godzilla vs. Kong is worth a watch. So that is what I personally think in terms of that. All right, we talked about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being resumed in South Africa. Now, I was able to catch parts of it, but Ronaldo Host did a good job interviewing Helen Zilla. And after midnight today, I'm going to purchase her book, called Go Woke or Go Broke, because the woke culture is not just affecting South Africa and the United States. It's negatively affecting all of us around the world. In a worldwide conglomerate, Disney, the woke culture is just killing them. And one of the more recent things that they've done, this conservative Republican, he's a conservative Republican, and he wrote an op in the Orlando Sentinel about how the woke culture is just ruining his experience in Disney. And him and his family are huge Disney fans, and they typically go to Disney World every year. But now Disney World is allowing their workers to wear any hairstyle they please, or express any additional things on their clothing. And the reason he has a problem with this is because he says he's personally not allowed to protest at work without it being a workplace consequence. He doesn't wish the workers bad or anything, and he don't try to change their views, but he's there to go on vacation, to get away from the political arena, to get away from the political world. And it feels like, and it seems like Disney's trying to shove the woke politics down people's throat. Now, Walt Disney was not like that. He was more of a Republican voter, but he voted for Democrats at times too. Walt Disney tried to stay away from politics. I've read his biography. But Walt Disney was a split ticket voter. He voted for Republicans sometimes, and he voted for Democrats sometimes. But the company seems to be going in a very, very far leftist direction. And I've discussed this before, and Disney's stock was about at $200 US. It's now down to 185, I believe, last time I checked. And when it got to about $197, I had a bad gut feeling that the woke politics were not going to sit well with a lot of Disney fans and Disney viewers. Prime example, in Disneyland Paris and also Anaheim Disneyland, pretty much every Disney theme park around the world, they have Peter Pan's flight. And they have scenes with the Native Americans. Well, some people had said that the original Peter Pan was offensive to American Indians or Native Americans. I personally didn't think so. I didn't find it offensive. Well, they did two things. One, they took it off the kids' profiles, meaning like your kid under 18 can have a profile at Disney Plus, but they can't see everything that adults can see. Well, the original Peter Pan is off there, and only adults can see it. And that's the same with Lady and the Tramp. They said Lady and the Tramp was offensive to Asians with the way the Siamese cats were portrayed. But I personally didn't think that, and I lived in Asia for 2 years, and nobody ever came up to me and said they found the film Lady and the Tramp offensive. Well, there was a major backlash, and there were a lot of parents who canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions because of it. And there was major backlash. And then also, on the ride Peter Pan's flight in Disneyland Paris and Disneyland California, that Disney was going to take the Native Americans off that ride. And this is in far leftist France, which a lot of French culture is pretty woke, and it's the same in California. Well, a lot of Disney fans in California and in France saw the video, because Disney launched a video and asked the fans what they thought, and fans in France and California were outraged with it, and it forced Disney to keep the Native Americans on that ride. That is just getting ridiculous how woke Disney can possibly be. And that the Disney's woke culture is ruining a genuine Disney experience. So that's basically how, you go woke, you go broke, and Disney's losing theme park revenue. They're losing. Now, some of that happened because they didn't allow full capacity due to the COVID, and they wanted to contain that. But even with the woke politics, they're losing Disney Plus subscribers just from that. They're losing theme park attendance money, and they're losing popularity. So this is an example of go woke or go broke. I mean, Disney obviously is not broke, and Disney has and Disney still has plenty of revenue, but Disney's popularity is going down, and we'll see how things are in 5 to 10 years if they don't change. Another example is American sports. With the NBA, the TV ratings for the NBA are the lowest that they've been in 7 years. In 7 years. Now, attendance, when they allow attendance is still pretty high. Even like for COVID, like a lot of teams don't allow heavy attendance, but the ones who can buy tickets typically do. It hasn't affected attendance, but TV ratings are down by 7%. Major League Baseball's TV ratings are down too. The NFL's TV ratings are down as well. That's another example of go woke or go broke. And then a lot of companies have typically make a lot of revenue when they get to advertise on the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is one of the most watched shows in the world. The final NFL championship game, the Super Bowl. Well, a lot of companies were scared to advertise in the Super Bowl because they were scared that somebody would find their ad offensive. And a lot of the Super Bowl couldn't get enough people to come. The network that had the Super Bowl this year couldn't get enough people to come and advertise because of the political correctness. So I believe Helen Zilla's right with you go woke, you go broke. Remember, go woke and go woke and go broke is what I firmly believe, and I believe that Helen Zilla's right. Going woke equals going broke. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to type in there. I know it's late in South Africa. It's almost midnight, and Monday is tomorrow. But this was the only time I could do the live stream. It's 3:51 p.m. here in Mississippi in the southern U.S. Okay, more news on the COVID situation. The COVID situation in South Korea. South Korea has just had secured another deal with Pfizer to give them 40 million new vaccines, and that is in addition to the 20 million vaccines that Pfizer vaccines that South Korea already has. Now, one of my South Korean friends had said that Pfizer vaccines allocated for teenagers, this new batch of Pfizer vaccines. I think it needs to be open to all South Koreans, because with the South African strain, the Pfizer vaccine is more effective than the AstraZeneca vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine is 70% effective against the original COVID-19 strain, but the South African strain, the AstraZeneca vaccine, is only 10 to 15% effective against the is only 10 to 15% effective against the South African strain. And the South African strain, while it's not prevalent in South Korea, it has been spotted, and there are a lot of South African English teachers that have gone to South Korea because South Africa's economy has been in the tank for a very, very long time. Well, and so I firmly believe that there needs to be the AstraZeneca vaccine is not going to be effective for South Korea in the long term, and that they need to go with the Pfizer vaccine. That's my personal opinion, and if you guys disagree with it, that's fine. That's your right to disagree with me on that. But that's the latest news there out of South Korea. All right, okay. One thing I'm getting tired of with people had protested over the shooting of Ma'Khia Bryant in Columbus, Ohio, but it was blatant obvious from the footage that she had a knife and she was trying to stab the person that was next to her. So the Columbus police officer, and they released the body cam footage almost less than a day after the shootings took place, because a lot of some BLM protesters got the news that a person had been shot by the police, and all they were told was it was a black female. They didn't explain anything else. Well, some BLM protesters go in there and compare the situation to George Floyd, and they start a bunch of ruckus without knowing all the facts. Well, the Columbus Police Department in Columbus, Ohio, had released body cam footage, and it showed the officer telling the lady with the knife, put the knife down, but she didn't comply. And she pulled her hand back like she was about to stab the person that was next to her. So basically, and the person she was trying to stab was an African-American female. So a cop basically saved an African-American female's life. But then LeBron James tweeted a picture of the cop that used deadly force to save another person's life. and he tweeted a picture of the cop and he said, "You're next," which was basically a death threat. And it was basically a death threat to the police officer. Now, due to a lot of mounting pressure that LeBron James had, he had deleted the tweet after facing so much backlash. So that's basically that. And also, the shooting in Chicago of Adam Toledo, who was a Hispanic male, it was justified. Unfortunately, he was young, I think 15 or under, but he had a knife, and he was with another man that wasn't his parents at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and shots were fired in the area, and you could hear the shots on the officer's body cam footage. Well, the officer started saying on the radio, "Shots fired, shots fired." Well, Adam Toledo didn't drop the knife immediately. He had the knife behind his back in an alleyway, and the officer saw it. And the officer said, "Drop the knife, drop the knife." Well, the way Adam Toledo dropped it, it looked like he was lunging his knife forward at the officer and not trying to drop it. So the officer had reason to believe that Adam Toledo was trying to kill him. And the officer used the amount of force appropriate for that situation, I firmly believe. So the shootings of Adam Toledo were justified by the Chicago Police Department, and the shooting of Ma'Khia Bryant was justified by the Columbus Police Department. It was unfortunate situations, but Miss Bryant was trying to stab another person, and you could see that with body cam footage. The USA Today, who is typically a very liberal, far leftist newspaper, agrees with me on that. The USA Today said that Ma'Khia Bryant was holding a knife when the time she was shot by Columbus police officers, and that she was trying to stab the person that was next to her. So that is justified use of deadly force. That is a textbook use of deadly force. So that's that. And some people are saying, well, why didn't the officer taser? Why didn't he do that? Look, the taser, sometimes if somebody is trying to stab somebody, you wonder what their right state of mind is in, or if they're hopped up on drugs. Normally, tasers do work, but not always. Sometimes, if somebody is very high on drugs, particularly meth, the taser is largely ineffective. And the taser, you deploy the taser, the person could turn around and come swinging the knife at you. If somebody is trying to kill the officer or kill another bystander, then that is a justified use of deadly force. So, like I said, unfortunate situation, but that had to happen. Now, the George Floyd situation, it's been talked about in the news and everything else, and Derek Chauvin should have not had his knee on George Floyd's neck as long as he did. Even a gun at that distance is hard to hit, okay? All right, well, if you're talking about Ma'Khia Bryant, she was where she was to the lady, that she wasn't going at the officer, she was going at the lady that was right next to her, and she was well within the distance to try to stab her. That doesn't pan out. Sorry, buddy. But that was one comment on the stream. Okay, he should have not had his knee on George Floyd's neck a long time, and it's been determined it wasn't a racially motivated situation. Derek Chauvin had worked with George Floyd as a security guard years before, and they had bad beef when they worked together. And there was some bad blood, and that happened. Now, the only thing, that chokehold and that knee on the neck, as much as I don't like it, and it should never be legal police procedure, it is legal police procedure in the state of Minnesota to neutralize a threat. And there had been medical experts that testified that George Floyd was so high on fentanyl that he was going to die anyway. It's hard to hit the broadside of a barn. No, it's not. I'm not the best shooter on the range, and it's not hard to hit the broadside of a barn. All right. So there were medical experts that testified that had said that he had enough fentanyl in his system, he was going to die anyway. Now that that chokehold should not be, and the knee on the neck should not be legal police procedure, and that was disturbing footage. I'm not going to lie, but it nevertheless was. Now, I did support the city of Minneapolis awarding George Floyd's family the money that they awarded them, which amounted to $27 million. That chokehold should be banned and should be illegal. But under the U.S. Constitution, we have something called the ex post facto law is unconstitutional. What that means is, okay, let's say chewing gum is legal right now, but then it becomes illegal. But you punish people for chewing gum when it was legal. That is unconstitutional. We've done away with ex post facto law. So that's what concerns me right there. But the George Floyd, the Derek Chauvin conviction does show this. It does show that that our courts are not systemically racist. The jury was scared. To a certain extent, the jury was scared, but they were scared that their cities were going to be blown up and their cities were going to be rioted. But George Floyd, I hated to see him die, but he was not a role model. He was a drug addict after his last job didn't work out. Okay, he was hopped up on fentanyl, which medical experts had testified that there was enough fentanyl in his system that would have killed him anyway. Didn't justify the chokehold and the knee on the neck that Derek Chauvin did. He could have just held him there for a little while and threw on the cuffs, but then George Floyd probably would have died in the car under police custody. So it's just, to a certain extent, the jury was scared, but they were scared that they were going to see their country blow up if there wasn't a conviction, and it would have been unjustifiably blown up, if you want to know the truth. Because Black Lives Matter had threatened to riot throughout all the cities if they didn't get a conviction in that case, and Maxine Waters, congressional representative from California, encouraged that, but then she also requested police presence to escort her from Washington, D.C., where she works, even though she represents California. Most U.S. representatives stay in Washington, D.C. most of the time. Washington, D.C. to Minnesota. She requested police escorts, but then bashed the police. No, not their city. It depends. That was not Maxine Waters' city. She has nothing. She's not from Minnesota. Doesn't represent Minnesota. She's from California. She represents California through the U.S. House of Representatives as an elected official. So no, that don't fly right there. Absolutely not. It is hypocrisy if you're saying that. It's hypocrisy for her to say that. It's hypocrisy for her to say that. To request police presence, but then bash the police like she did. That's very hypocritical on Maxine Waters' part. And it was the same with Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton going in a private jet when he's always talking about the environment and environmental causes. Well, private jets released about 4 to 5 times the amount of emission gases than does a regular commercial jet. And from what I remember, he requested police presence as well. So that is hypocritical that's hypocritical on Al Sharpton's part as well. So just this not leading by example. If you personally ask me, it's just not leading by example. All right. Another thing that I wanted to discuss. A lot of police officers are quitting, and because they feel like they can't do their jobs. And what's going to happen is if too many police officers quit and not enough people are wanting to be police officers. Oh, so I'm playing India COVID. Okay, I'll talk about the India COVID. All right. Tamil Nadu, which is a province in the southern part of India. Tamil Nadu is going on a semi-lockdown starting Monday. Cinemas are going to be closed. Restaurants are going to be open, but they're going to be allowed takeout only. No delivery and takeout only. No sitting down. Hair salons will be closed. They're going to allow people at a funeral, but only 25 people to a funeral. It was 50. It's been reduced to 25. and that is just a hard situation for Tamil Nadu. Maharashtra, which is the most populous state in India, which houses India's financial capital, Mumbai, they were down from under 67,000 cases a day for a few days, but they've recently spiked back up to over 67,000 cases a day. Now, everybody's going after the Modi government, and Modi may not be reelected, but here's the thing: there wasn't much Modi could have done. India is one of the smallest countries in the world landmass-wise, but one of the biggest countries in the world population-wise. They have a total of 1.4 billion people in all of India. And Modi had tried the lockdown at first. Why did I become a cop? Well, honestly, I did go through, I don't know if you've seen other videos, I did get hired by the Biloxi Police Department, but I injured my back. They found a herniated L4, L5 disc in my back. And I wasn't able to go to police academy. So that answers your question. Okay, so Modi had tried a lockdown for a while, and that really did help curb the spread of the COVID. But the problem was India's economy was decreasing and people were losing their jobs. And India, landmass-wise, compared to its population, no, India has one of the highest population per square mile in the world. So compared to their population, India is very small landmass-wise compared to the population they have to fit. It's just like Japan. Japan is about the size of the state of California, but Japan has over 125 million people. Both of them are very crowded areas. Well, the lockdown worked for a little while, but then India's economy was going down, and it wasn't going towards a recession. It was more like going towards a depression. So parts of India had to open back up. And then there were some people in India who were trying to, that had stayed home at first, particularly during the lockdown, but even after the lockdown, they cooperated, they social distanced, but which is normal human emotions. About 15 months, a lot of them grew a little bit antsy, and they started going out more, didn't watch themselves, and then the COVID increased. And right now, there are several hospitals in India that are facing oxygen shortages right now, which basically oxygen trucks going to hospitals right now in India are going to clinics. They are getting armed police escorts right now because the oxygen is so high in demand right now and so low in supply. And it was not a public hospital in India, but it was a private hospital, and I believe it was either in Delhi or Mumbai, but where the hospital caught fire because the oxygen ventilators weren't hooked up properly. So India right now needs our prayers, and they need our support, and it's just a sad situation. Sorry, please, you asked me what I think about race and IQ. I don't think that genetics have anything. Your race does not determine one's IQ. I don't believe that. In the United States, they had a study with the Tuskegee Airmen, which is one of the hardest jobs mentally and physically that somebody can do, and you have to pretty much have a high IQ to do that job. And the Tuskegee Airmen did their job and did it very, very well. And they were African-American fighter pilots. And the training ground was in Alabama, one of the more racist places in the 1940s. So, no, I don't think race has anything to do with somebody's IQ. I don't believe that black people are intellectually inferior to white people. I don't believe that. I don't believe that whites are intellectually inferior to blacks. I don't believe that either. I don't believe Asians are intellectually superior to anybody. I reject that. It's genetic. I really do. You asked me that question, I'm going to deliver an honest answer. I really don't agree with that. But, so the India COVID right now, Delhi might go into a second week of lockdown, but the majority of Delhi's population supports that. The majority of Delhi's population supports that. They say that they need to have another week of the lockdown to help curb the COVID-19. Sorry, please. Okay, if you enlist in the military, you take what you call an ASVAB, which is the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery. And there's English, math, mechanical knowledge. I took it practice when I was in high school. Scored pretty high on it. But even though I went to civilian school, they made it mandatory for us just to see how we would do. Now, if you go in an officer route, typically you have to get a college degree, but in addition to the college degree, typically you have to pass. Well, in the Air Force, you have to pass an AFOQT test. I'm not sure about the Army or Navy though. You would have to ask a recruiter. I don't. An ROTC recruiter. I don't know about that. I do know about the Air Force. You have an AFOQT test. So that's that. So yeah, we need to keep India in our prayers. Sabi plays. I don't think South Africa did that well with the COVID. If you look at what's going on in South Africa, it is horrible. Like, okay, prime example. The COVID-19 evolved in South Africa. That's why we have the South Africa strain, and there's stupid things on that lockdown. Okay, like, prime example. You can have a funeral with 50 people, okay? Which has led to the spread of the COVID, but you can't go outside. You can't go to the beach in certain areas. Beaches have been closed. Outdoor facilities, if you keep your social distance and wear a mask, you should be fine. People can't go fishing. If you fish by yourself or with another person, but you wear a mask and you social distance, it's outdoors, you should be fine. Fishing wouldn't affect COVID-19. But then for the longest time, malls were allowed to operate, bars were allowed to operate, and restaurants were allowed to operate. But then they would ban the sale of alcohol for private consumption. It's been an ineffective lockdown. I mean, South Africa's in the top 10 in most cases for COVID-19. Sometimes they've been in the top 5. South Africa has a bad COVID-19 problem. That's one reason the United States has banned travel to and from South Africa. American citizens can't travel to and from South Africa because the COVID-19 evolved in South Africa. So don't believe the media hype that the ANC government of South Africa has done well with COVID-19. They have not. All right, it's getting late. Hope everybody is doing well. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. Hope everybody's doing well. Take care.